And we're back. After a very long, protracted contract negotiations, I'm happy to announce I've been locked in as your 2024 APOLOGIA MC. Can you believe it? And part of my rider was putting applause. This is what we negotiated. Put it on there one more time. Oh yeah, it feels. It helps that my wife puts this together, so it's not really a choice. We are so excited to be back. Honestly, it is incredible to see all of these amazing faces here tonight. I know some of you drove from very far away to be here tonight, so we really, really appreciate it. I always love asking this out of curiosity. Who here is it your first time coming to Apologia? Oh, look at all of these hands. That's incredible. That's like 25-30% of the room, which is really cool. So for those of you who are brand new, I'll just explain the flow of the evening. It's pretty simple, but for the first hour, Pastor Alec and Dennis Prager will be having like a fireside chat interview where it'll be back and forth and just kind of following the flow of conversation. During that first hour, if we could put up the text information, what we'll do is we'll be collecting questions that you have during the first hour's conversation. You just text questions to 844-773-0530. Don't worry, this will be popping up a bunch, but if you do want to text in, probably a good idea to take a picture of this number right now. And then we'll take a small 10-minute intermission at the top of the next hour. When we come back, we'll collect all of those questions you sent to us, and then Dennis Prager and Pastor Alec will take on those questions in real time, so that will be really fun to do. It looked like a lot of you were interacting with the tables outside. We love the supporters that we have out there. Just want to give a quick plug. Thank you to the two people up there that clapped for the tables. These people work so hard to set up these tables. One of the main tables I wanted to draw your attention to, it's right in the center. There are mezuzahs that we're selling for $7, which is what we paid for them. But one of the things Pastor Alex had a passion for, loving to visit Israel, is wanting to visibly and publicly support our Jewish brothers and sisters and to support the nation of Israel. And there's no better way for you to simply just put a mezuzah over the post because it's biblical and it's a great way to show support. So that is available there. There is the Concerned Citizens for Education group. They are to my right, to your left. That, for anybody who lives in this area, in the greater Edmonds shoreline area, all that group does is they want to be a visible presence in our school board meetings. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to ask questions. All they're asking is for you one time a month to just show up and literally sit with them. It's a group of about 10 people, but our school boards need to know there are conservative Christian believers who want to support the public schools and want to see our kids educated correctly. A longtime supporter is FPIW, Family Policy Institute of Washington. They have a new director, and with that is this campaign to sign up 1.7 million what they call defenders. All that this would mean is a commitment to pray, vote, sign, and engage. Very, very simple. If for those of you who are looking to be involved with our community, FPIW is a great way to do that, both locally and at the state level. Next is the 40 Days for Life pro-life advocacy group out here. This is an awesome group. We don't want to just be a church that stands for righteousness. We also want to support the broken and hurting. So one of the things I'm most proud about for Westgate Chapel is we offer a post-abortion support group for both women and men. If you've made that decision, we're here to love on you. We're here to give you resources to help you work through this process and most importantly, stand for life. And then lastly, go Dogs. I'm a University of Washington graduate proudly, and it's so cool to see a TP USA chapter here representing UW, which I know this is being live streamed and I'm an alumni, so I'll just hold my words, but just know that they're standing for truth and righteousness. They have 2 events coming up. They have Charlie Kirk, and then they also have Kristen Hawkins coming up. These are free public events, so make sure you stop by that booth. Plus, they have really rad buttons. Okay. I'm getting used to this thing too, so thanks for being so kind and patient with me. Now you've seen enough of me. We're 5 minutes in. Dennis and Pastor Alec are ready. Let me read this introduction. This man needs no introduction, that's why you're here. But Dennis Prager has broadcast a national radio show for 25 years, written 10 best-selling books, lectured on 6 of the 7 continents. Obviously, you can guess the 7th. I can't wait for his Antarctica tour. I hear it's gonna be a banger, so that's exciting. And also founded Prager University. You should follow them on social media, I do. He's also been the largest producer and distributor of non-liberal video content in the world. Those videos have garnered over 5 billion views, mostly young people in 91 countries. He's a Bible scholar and a profound knowledge of Hebrew language and grammar, and a fervent defender of the Judeo-Christian viewpoint, which is why we're here tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce Dennis Prager and Pastor Alec.
You know, forgive me for starting before even Pastor does. I just realized how arrogant I am. I thought the applause was partially for me. For all I know, it was all for you. I'm standing there going, thank you, and you're all standing for him.
It happens every Sunday when I come out here.
That's good. That is pretty good.
Dennis, we are just so honored to have you join us tonight. What an exciting opportunity. I guess where I'd like to start this evening is to have you take us back. I had the privilege of having lunch with you and your wife and family here in the middle of whatever month it was, November, I think. And I'm just curious, what kind of childhood did you have that shaped you to be the person that you are?
So first, let me just say how happy I am to be here. And let me just say this. I collect good people. People collect coins. He is in my collection. The question of my childhood shaping me, obviously everybody's childhood shapes them. But I have come to, and I will answer it directly, but I want to give a partially indirect response. It's a very interesting question that is not answerable. How much does our childhood actually shape us? There are people with awful childhoods who come out as terrific, healthy human beings. There are people with healthy childhoods who come out as awful, disturbed individuals. We're not just a nurture. People are born with natures, which is both good and bad, because some people are born with awful natures. They can fight it, and that's where I think religion really comes in. But I have one sibling, so same, we're both biological children of our parents, grew up in the same home, and we have extremely different temperaments, personalities, etc. He's a wonderful human being, but we're just very, very different. So I just wanted to make that clear. Having said that, I can tell you this, and a particular interest to you and all of you. I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish, not only Orthodox Jewish home, Orthodox Jewish world. I was raised in a cocoon. My parents were Orthodox Jews. I went to an Orthodox Jewish yeshiva. Yeshiva is all-day studies, half the day in Hebrew religious studies. So Hebrew is like English to me. and half-day in English secular studies. My summer camp was Orthodox Jewish. My friends were Orthodox Jewish. But now comes the nature part. From the earliest age, I wanted to know non-Jews. So much so that I'll give you two little anecdotes. One is, I would wait for the mailman to show up. I couldn't make that up. And he was the one non-Jew in my life with any frequency. And I would interview him. And I'm sure he thought I was weird. You know, what kid is interested in the mailman? The other one was riding in my father's car. He'd be driving. And of course, in those days, there was a dial, right? So he would dial what he'd want to hear on the AM radio. And if he would pass a Christian evangelist, I would go, stop, I want to hear it. And he thought, what? He didn't object. He just thought it was odd that his 11-year-old wanted to hear the Christian evangelist on the radio. You know, he was on his way to the news or music, and I wanted that. So built into me has been I'll tell you what's deeply built into me, and then I'll shut up, because I could go on. This is a big question. But built into me from a very early age, I have only one division among people. And to use the words of Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, one of the books that most affected my life, there are only two races, the decent and the indecent. That is exactly how I view the world. My non-interest in your color, ethnicity, religion is 100%. Are you a decent human being is my only interest. So I never divided the world between Jew and non-Jew, between Jew and Christian, between American and non-American. I love good people and I loathe bad people. I know for some of you that's uncomfortable, because many of you believe you hate the sin but not the sinner. I have not reached that high status in life. I hate them both.
Those hours you spent studying Hebrew are fascinating to me, because my first introduction to some of your broadcasts and podcasts was from watching the Jordan Peterson Exodus series. And I think I might have said this to you at lunch that day, but your passion for the sacredness of the text really was almost unequaled in that panel, except for maybe Os Guinness, where some of the British theologians and a couple of the Americans, I wasn't so sure what they thought of the sacred text. You were unequivocal in that.
Well, you're very perceptive. So here, I could give a briefer answer on this one. This will strike you all, I think, as being at least interesting. As I say very often, I'm answering specifically with regard to the Torah, the first 5 books, which are the basis of the Old and New Testaments. As I remind Christians all the time, Jesus did not read the New Testament. And the Torah was central to Jesus, as it was to the apostles. And I am in love with the Torah. I mean in love. I don't use that term easily. I love it. And that's the first 5 books, obviously, of the Bible. And so this is what I say. I don't believe in the Torah because I believe in God. I believe in God because I believe in the Torah. That's very important. The thing that most brings me to faith in God is the Torah. The birth of a child, the existence of the cosmos, beautiful music. There are so many things that contribute to my belief in God, but that's the most. It's inconceivable to me that human beings wrote the Torah. And I'll give you just one of 50 examples. The Jerusalem Post published 18 reasons I believe the Torah is from God that I wrote. But I'll give you one. It is inconceivable to me that Jews would have written so negatively about themselves. It's a very powerful argument. If Jews wrote the Torah rather than ultimately God, then Jews would have looked a lot better than they do. Not only that, non-Jews are heroic in the Torah. Noah is not Jewish. God saves the world thanks to Noah. The daughter of Pharaoh is not only not Jewish, she's the daughter of the man who wants to throw all the firstborn Jewish males into the Nile River. And she is the hero. She saves the guy who brings the Jews out of Egypt. Jethro is a hero in the Torah. Another, not only not Jewish, he's a Midianite priest. The Torah divides people by good and bad, not Jew and non-Jew. Anyway, I am in love with those texts. It comes through, I hope, and I finished 4 of my 5-volume commentary. It's called The Rational Bible, because I come to God through reason. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I've been able to bring a lot of people to take God seriously. I don't know many Christians who have brought as many people back to church as this Jew has. And I'm very proud of that, by the way.
If we can, I'd like to jump to one of the primary reasons I wanted to bring you tonight was to talk about what secularism has done to our nation. I think the congregation, if we could poll everybody, I think it would be very interesting to see the percentage of people here who are not from Westgate Chapel. And I admire you for being here. I think one of the things that Apologia is doing, it's providing a venue for people to come together who have wondered for a long time if there's anyone else in this entire region that thinks the way you do. And you look around. You look around, and everywhere you turn, our perspectives on life have become marginalized. And I can't imagine how many times I've said to Rita or the family, where's the common sense with decisions that are being made? Your understanding of what secularism has done and is doing, I think, was a wonderful way for us to begin to understand why we're in the mess we're in right now.
Well, another reason that I believe in God and the Bible is I see the alternative and what chaos it breeds. I have a column, I have 1,000 columns on the internet, literally 1,000, 20 years, 50 times a year. One of them is how the left keeps me religious. I am very literal. If I mean that literally. The left is one of the top 3 or 4 reasons. In a certain sense, as heretical as it might sound, it's certainly not meant to be, but I believe that the left is more a factor in my remaining religious than even religious people are. When I see the evil and the chaos and the misery that the anti-Bible world brings, I am convinced that the Bible world must have something going for it. The alternative stinks. Or let's put it this way. I could spend the evening on the consequences of secularism. I've spent my life on that subject more than any other single subject. But we now know something I've known all of my life since I was in graduate school at one of the Ivy League places, which happily now has no prestige. And I realized that when in my 20s, I was being taught nonsense. I was taught in the 1970s at Columbia, I was taught that men and women are basically the same. I knew that was drivel in my 20s. And I was taught a lot of nonsense. And you now know, a lot of Americans now know, the moral wasteland and intellectual wasteland that our universities are. Guess what? There's a reason. They are our most secular institution. They were once Bible-based. You could not get a BA at Harvard until 1800 without knowing Hebrew. Isn't that something? The insignia of Yale University is in Hebrew. I'll bet you almost no Yale student knows that. There would be demonstrations against it, I'm sure. And do you know what it is? It says in Hebrew, Urim v'Tumim. The Urim v'Tumim was the breastplate that the high priest in the Bible wore. Gives you an idea how steep they were in the Hebrew Bible. That those would be the words that they would choose. And that's in Hebrew, that is the insignia of Yale University. They were founded to teach science, history, and theology. The one thing you can't study today is theology, because the study of God, which is what theology means, is nonsense to these people. Had the left produced good people, had the left produced intellectually sound, a sound world, I want you to know, I'm not proud of this, I'm not embarrassed by it. It would challenge my religiosity. If I could see a non-religious moral alternative to religion, I might have embraced it, because I am preoccupied with goodness and fighting evil. And God wants me to be. My favorite verse in the Bible, those of you who love God must hate evil. It's a command. We don't have a command form in English, Hebrew does, but that is what it says. In other words, if you don't hate evil, you don't love God. Not enough Christians and Jews hate evil, just for the record. This is what the secular world, or in a nutshell, tell your child who got woke just this. You know, only secular people say men give birth. Only secular people. No religious person, Jew or Christian, Mormon, Catholic, Protestant, Jew, says men give birth. Not one. You have to be a secular fool to say men give birth.
In your lecture series on secularism, you give us a G.K. Chesterton quote that when people stop believing in God, then nothing is not the option.
Right. They don't believe in nothing, they believe in anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the stupid things that you're seeing today? We could probably help you with the list.
No, there's no question. We could spend the rest of the evening on that list. Well, men give birth is one example. So you should all look on the internet. Some of you may have seen this. It went viral. I was on Bill Maher's show a few years ago, right before COVID, and he said, "Oh, Trump is such a liar." And I go, "Well, I'll just tell you this, it doesn't compare to the lies of the left." And he goes, "Oh, really? What do you mean, Dennis?" So I said, well, America is systemically racist. It's a left-wing lie. Here's another one. Men menstruate. So he starts laughing. It's gone viral. Just check this out. Dennis Prager, Bill Maher. You'll love it. It's priceless. So Bill Maher starts laughing at me, and so does the rest of the panel, and so does the entire audience. Which, by the way, just between you and me, my wife is here. She knows I'm not exaggerating because wives know when their husband. Okay, I don't have to finish the sentence. Okay, so I love it. I actually revel in their laughing at me because all it did was confirmed for me what fools the left of center world has produced. They're laughing at me. They don't know that the left says men menstruate. Bill Maher looks at me. It's as I say, it's gone viral. There must be 10 million views on this. And he goes, "What? Dennis, who says men menstruate?" And they all start laughing. And of course, now, if you don't say men menstruate, Bill Maher's audience will laugh at you. You have to say it. So how about this? The University of California has a list of microaggressions. By the way, that's a very telling phrase, microaggression, because they acknowledge it's micro. That's very, no, I'm not kidding. This is not a cute line. This is a serious line. These are not, they can't find macro racism, so they find micro racism. And there's a list, an official list from the crappy University of California system, a stinking, miserable institution. And they have a list of microaggressions. Here's an example of a racist microaggression. If someone says they're colorblind, they're racist. I grew up being a Jew from New York. Of course, I grew up a Democrat and a liberal. I mean, you're ostracized from the Jewish community if you're not. That's a joke, but I'm just saying it's normative. And as a liberal, as a Democrat, I was told colorblind is the ideal. Now, if you say you're colorblind, you're a racist. Well, which is it? Is colorblind non-racist or racist? That is equivalent to men give birth. To say colorblind is racist. I only wish that the Nazis had been ethnic blind. 6 million Jews wouldn't have been killed. How sick. They're sick on the left. You don't know how bad they are until you immerse yourself in the crap that they teach. Forgive my language, but there is no clean word that comes close to describing what they teach young people. Colorblind is racist? How about this? If you say there is only one race, the human race, that is racist. Really? So all of us who believe that God created Adam in his image, in God's image, we're all racist because Adam had no race. Is Adam black? Is Adam white? Is Adam swarthy? Is Adam yellow? Is Adam red? Does one Jew or Christian who believes in the Bible give a damn? Do we care? What difference does it make? It makes no difference. Does God have a color? The list is endless. Your kids are poisoned at college. There are only 2 kids who escape being poisoned at college. Those who come in with really good resources to combat it, and those who are drunk for 4 years. I don't even drink, not out of idealism. I don't care if people drink as long as they don't get drunk. But I must say there is a bright side to college inebriation. You're too inebriated to take seriously what your fool professor has told you.
My daughter and I combed through your series on secularism, and that's why I think I wanted to spend most time on it, because I think it's most instructive to what we're going through right now. One of the things that I didn't realize until I heard you talk about it was that the left will accuse Christians of being part of the problem with the fact that more people have died at the hands of religious extremists, and they'll use the Spanish Inquisition, or they'll use the Crusades and as an example of why a good reason to shun religion. And you had an incredible response to that in your series.
Well, there are a few responses that I've had, and they're worth hearing. First of all, I'll begin with the most recent. The greatest bloodshed in any equivalent period of time occurred in the history of the world, occurred in the 20th century. And with the one exception of the Turkish regime and the Armenians, 99% of the true genocides of the 20th century were committed by secular, anti-religious regimes. Okay, so the college kid or the college professor who says, the greatest bloodshed has been caused by people who, in the name of God and religion, I'll address that issue specifically, but it's a lie. It's just not true. The greatest bloodshed has been caused by anti-religious secular regimes, specifically communism, which is responsible for 100 million deaths of non-combatants. Okay, they don't know that. By the way, one other little addendum to that, the greatest monsters have all been big governments. So the idea that I should trust big government to have all the weapons and all the power in a society, given that Nazism and communism were dependent upon big government to do the evils that they did, means you're an ignoramus. It means you don't even know the harm that big government has done. Okay, so number two, the Inquisition. So I wrote a book on anti-Semitism called Why the Jews? I wrote it 40 years ago. It is in its third edition. It has never gone out of print. You should read it, especially given what's happening today in the world and, of course, in the Middle East. And in the book, I have a whole chapter on Christian anti-Semitism, because there was a lot in Europe. The truth is truth. The truth does set you free. But so that's a preface to my noting to you that the Spanish Inquisition, which is often held up as the example of Christian anti-Semitism writ large, and it was horrible, but Jewish historians like Leo Kamen, K-A-M-E-N, have pointed out that in the course of its about 200-year existence, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people were killed. Every one of those is evil, every one of those killings. But 200 years, 2,000 people, the Nazis did 6,000 a day at Auschwitz. Gulag did, I don't know how many a day under Stalin. Mao did at least that many in his Great Leap Forward, where he starved his own people to send money to the Soviet Union to get weapons. So you can't be knowledgeable and be a leftist. You can be a liberal, you can be a conservative. It is not possible. If you are knowledgeable and you're a leftist, your opening of knowledge is so minuscule, like what I just described now. As far as the Crusades are concerned, and Jews were massacred by Crusaders on the way to the Holy Land, whole communities in Germany were slaughtered in horrible ways. So I have no great love for the Crusaders, but I do have great love for truth. The Crusades were animated by a desire to win back what the Muslims had taken from them. That's what people do in history. Some conquer and some want to reconquer, to take back. The idea of taking back what was taken in war has been universal in human history if people were strong enough to do it. This is not a defense of the horrors that they committed on the way there, but it is an honest assessment of what happened. The Christian record is mixed in Europe. It is. I'm in love with America's Christians. It has been a love affair, and I have felt it in return, just for the record. A lot of I'll give you a great story on that, if I may, Pastor. So,
Please.
I spoke to 1,000 people years ago in Agoura Hills, California, near where I live. And it was an evening run by a religious Jewish group, about 500 Christians, about 500 Jews. Comes to the question and answer period, people line up at the microphone. So a woman comes up to the microphone, says, "Dennis, I just want you to know I'm a Christian woman. You are my favorite Jew." And the Christians all applauded. I don't know what the Jews did. And after the applause died down, I go, "Actually, I'm your second favorite Jew." So, and now I will tell you a secret that occurred in my brain at that moment. This was a special moment for me because I notice in the audience the Christians are cracking up, applauding, cracking up, and the Jews are all looking at each other. What's so funny? What's so funny? So did I answer? I don't even remember your question. Did I?
I forgot my question. Actually,
Oh, yes, forgive me. I was telling you about America's Christians. Forgive me, yeah. So European Christianity, look at how many Catholics were slaughtered by Protestants and Protestants by Catholics. So this is really, it's a side statement, but it's the most important one perhaps I could make. Nothing guarantees goodness. This is really important. I'll give you I will give you a terrific thing I learned as a kid in yeshiva. There is a Leviticus 19:2. You shall be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. So the way Jews study text is to ask questions and then provide answers. This is how I was trained, ask. And I still do this with anything I read. Why did the author say this and not this? So one of the greatest commentators, a medieval Orthodox commentator, Nachmanides, in English, Ramban in the Hebrew, he asked a brilliant question. Why does the Torah say, why did God say, be holy? Wouldn't keeping all the Torah's commandments make you holy? And he gave this answer. Because you can be, and I'm translating from the Hebrew, you can be disgusting with the permission of the Torah. And I say every religion must teach its adherents. You can be disgusting while believing in Christ. There is no guarantee of goodness. You need God, you need the Bible, and you need to want to be good. God and Bible won't do it alone.
if we could, I'd like to do a little detour. When you and I had lunch together, you asked me a question. You said I was the first Protestant pastor you'd asked about Christians putting the mezuzah up on their front doors. I took you seriously. We came back and ordered several hundred from a store we know of in Bethlehem, made of olive wood, and Westgate bought several hundred. We have one on our front door right now, and I can only assume we only have, when I think Mike mentioned it earlier, we only have about 50 left. I wish I had several hundred because I'm pretty sure we could sell them tonight. But would you explain why it was important to you?
So very shortly after October 7th, I kept reading that some Jews were taking down their mezuzah. The mezuzah, or mezuzah, whichever way it's pronounced is fine, is a Torah law in Deuteronomy, and it literally means doorpost. But what it says is, you shall put these words on the doorposts of your homes and your gates, so that when you walk into your home, the words of God greet you, and when you walk out, they say some greeting to you, as it were. What is in there? The credo of Judaism, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. I mean, it's obviously every Christian is in sync with what is in a mezuzah.
Yeah.
You can't get better than that. I mean, Jesus, of course, says that and loving your neighbor, the two great commandments. So, two things occurred to me. One, how tragic that Jews would take it down, because they were afraid of anti-Semitism. And the other was, well, now indeed, American Christians have the opportunity to do what Europe's Christians tended not to do, and that is side with the Jews, in effect, without, of course, nearly the same risk. I don't want to exaggerate, but this is like hiding a Jew, except this is saying, I'm a Jew too. And I knew many Christians would resonate to this suggestion of putting up the mezuzah, and that you did this and your church did this is not surprising to me, given what I know about you and how I know you. But there's a very powerful story of Sue, was it Montana that took place? Where the menorahs, the Hanukkah menorahs? Oh, Wyoming? All right, Wyoming or Montana. She's probably right. But by the way, just for the record, I do not believe that the secret to a happy marriage is to always say, yes, ma'am. Just want you to know that. One man applauded. There were 1,300 people here. One person applauded. That was. I will remember that. That was awesome. And he's not here with his wife. That's the other thing. This man has been a bachelor his entire life, the guy who applauded. So anyway, in one of those states, what happened was, so a very small Jewish community, and a Jew had the Hanukkah menorah where you're supposed to put it, lit by a window so that everyone should see the light of Hanukkah, the light of God, and so on. And some anti-Semite threw a brick through the window, smashed the window, obviously scared the family, especially the child. And then a few days later, much of the city and every, Native Americans, Black Americans, Christian Americans, any group, they came out holding a menorah. We're all Jews. And that's what made me think, if you'll all do a mezuzah, that would be a big statement. And it would be just as powerful on behalf of Christianity as on behalf of Jews.
Yeah, I agree. Since I'm digressing already, you said something marvelous, many things marvelous, on that Exodus with Jordan Peterson, the Exodus series. One of the things that I will never forget is, I forget how the subject came up, but you challenged one of the American theologians. I don't know how COVID fit in the conversation, but you said to him, if you were a Jew and looking for some place to hide, if there was a program against Jews, you're looking for some place to hide, would you run to a church that closed its doors during COVID, or a church that opened its doors during COVID? and he wouldn't answer you. But I just that's fascinating to me.
Well, I'm flattered that you listened so carefully. I didn't even remember. I really am, and that's right. It was a damn good point. I forgot I made it. You see, so let me tell you where that question came from. I have devoted my life to studying goodness as much as I have evil, because I think that goodness is an aberration. Evil, I understand better than goodness. I understand Nazis better than I understand the handful of non-Jews during the Holocaust who hid Jews at the risk of their lives in many cases. I mean, most people don't do that. So I read a book many years ago. It's very painful to me. I literally didn't have the money to buy it. I was not wealthy, to say the least. I would have bought it, but it was an expensive hardback, and I was in my early 20s or late teens. So anyway, I read it in a bookstore. My brother was at Harvard Medical School. I was visiting him, so that means that I was in high school, so I was in my teens. And while he was in class one day, I went to the Harvard bookstore, Harvard Coop as they call it. There was a book on rescuers of Jews in the Holocaust, which has always fascinated me. How do you produce good people is the most important question a human being can ask. So they studied rescuers of Jews, and they gave 4 characteristics. 3 of them I had sort of assumed. The 4th blew my mind. The 4th characteristic was that they found that disproportionately people who had been considered eccentrics prior to the war were more likely to be among those who rescued Jews. Ever since then, by the way, it's had it was a life-changing moment to read that on many levels. Number 1, the least important, I love eccentrics as a result of it. Number 2, I realized all good comes from outliers. All good. Not every outlier is good, but all good comes from outliers. So if I have a choice of which church I might go to hide me, if I'm a Jew and Nazis take over, and this church closed during COVID, and this church was an outlier and stayed open, in other words, wasn't afraid of governmental authority and governmental disrespect and so on, then of course I know where I'll go. So that's the background, the backdrop to your excellent question. I know Eric Metaxas, whom you've had here, Eric and I, quite close, and he was very upset at the church's reactions. And the synagogues were no better, by the way, just to make it clear. Sheep-like behavior is the human norm. That's it. That's it. I don't say that with bitterness. I don't even say it with anger, but you can't deny it. The human nature is to be sheep-like. To march to the beat of a different drummer is very difficult. For some, it's easier than others. For me, it's easier than for others. That's my nature. I admit it. I don't even take that much credit for it. I'm anti-sheep. If everybody is in this lane, I will go in this lane, which is probably stupid, although you get there faster now that I think of it. So I take that back. It isn't stupid. But anyway, that's the background to what you heard me say there. And I didn't recall, so there wasn't a response?
No, he dodged the question. He wouldn't answer it.
Mm-hmm.
which kind of tells us what their church did. So would you mind, I didn't want to interrupt you. Were you?
No, I only wanted to say, if we have another occasion, and I think we will, where the government says shut down for no good reason, we will allow those who are selling weed to stay open, but not churches. I will be very curious. I don't think the widespread, yes, sir, what else can we do? Can we shine your shoes approach will take place. I think a lot of Americans, and I'm not a built-in optimist, but I think a lot of Americans realize something bad happened then. And by the way, I will just tell you, you could look it up on the internet, April 2020, 2 months after lockdowns, I tweeted and I wrote a column that lockdowns were the greatest international mistake in history. And I wrote another column that this is what was the term, Mike? This is a dress rehearsal for a police state.
We have just a few minutes left before the break. Time has really flown.
Does everybody come back, or is it like if you weren't bored, you come back, but if you were bored, you go home? How does that work? Is it?
Would you mind talking to us for a little bit with the time we have left on what's going on in Israel? What's your discernment about final outcomes? What do you see happening since you've been there so frequently?
It's very distressing that we're living through Isaiah's condemnation of those who call good evil and evil good. The only, I guess, if it's of any consolation, is that 2,500 years ago, Isaiah saw the same problem. You'd think we'd have gotten better in 2,500 years. Woe unto those who call good evil and evil good. If you can't tell the difference between Israel and Hamas, you're morally disturbed. There is something literally wrong with your conscience. It's not functioning. Our State Department can't see the difference. The UN, the UN is the opposite. They like Hamas more than Israel. They think Hamas is the good guys. Do you realize? I mean, see here also. This is another example of the reinforcement of my faith. The desire to exterminate Jews, and that's the uniqueness of anti-Semitism. Every group has a group that doesn't like them. But people who hate Jews want to exterminate them. Jewish babies are as much the enemy as Jewish soldiers. Hitler wanted Jewish babies killed. Hamas wants Jewish babies killed. This does reinforce in me the belief that the Jews are the chosen people. And let me make something clear. It has never meant in a day in Jewish history that Jews are inherently better than anyone. God himself says it in the Torah. It's not because you're better than anybody or bigger than anybody. I made a covenant with your fathers, and that's it. You're a very small people. I believe that God gave the Jews the Torah. That's the traditional Jewish way of putting it. So that when the Jews became, and Jews did become unbelievably, inordinately influential in human life, right? No Judaism, no Christianity, just as an example, obviously. No Judaism, no Western civilization, no God as we know it, no concept of no Ten Commandments. I mean, it's endless. The only reason Jews are so disproportionately influential is because of the Torah. It is not built in. There are many despicable Jews. Trotsky was a Jew. Marx was the grandson of 2 Orthodox rabbis. It's true his parents converted to Christianity, but I'm talking at least just ethnically. George Soros is a Jew. He's despicable. So, but it doesn't matter. The fact that there are despicable Jews doesn't negate the fact that God chose the Jews. And the embodiment of Judaism today is Israel. It's the one Jewish state. That the one Jewish state, the size of New Jersey, is so hated. 22 Arab states from the Atlantic Ocean to the Persian Gulf. And there's no room for a Jewish state the size of New Jersey. And the preoccupation of the world with it. Why is the world preoccupied with Palestinians? They don't give a damn about Palestinians. They hate Jews. Here's proof. Does anybody talk about the tens of thousands of Christians killed by Muslims in West Africa? 0. Most Christians don't even know about it. New York Times has put a Palestinian picture on the front page at least 3 times a week since October 7th. You can't avoid it. Did they ever once put a massacre of the Christians of West Africa on the front page of the New York Times? I wonder if once in the last 25 years they did it at the New York Times. They don't care about Christians dying. The UN doesn't care about Christians murdered, slaughtered, raped. Means nothing to the world because Muslims are doing it. But if Jews fight back and don't decide to die, the world is preoccupied. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you for sharing that. We continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem right here. Before we take a break, I don't know if there's enough time for you to tell your story about raising money from Christians or Jews, but if it's appropriate, I'm about to. Before you jump into the story, though, this is my fundraising pitch, and I'm a terrible fundraiser, but
by definition,
yeah,
you're Christian. It comes with the territory.
Okay, here goes the. You want to go into the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is classic, I must say. I will admit it. So, first of all, I have a speech which you would love because I am one of the few people who is immersed in Jewish life and Christian life, and I love both communities, and I'm blessed. It's a blessing in my life to be in both worlds constantly. Anyway, so I really know Jews and I really know Christians. So I have a speech, what Jews and Christians can learn from each other or teach each other. Okay, so here's something Jews can teach Christians. By the way, if you want to ask me later what Christians can teach Jews, I'm serious, that'd be fun. But here's one, how to fundraise. So let me tell you how I learned this. The first time I ever spoke at a church, maybe 30 years ago, the pastor gets up and asks the congregation if they would contribute. There will be boxes ushers will be bringing. And he says something to this effect. I want you to pray on it. And whatever the Lord places on you, I want you to give. If the Holy Spirit guides you, you will give. And I sat there thinking, is he kidding? What if the Lord gives me to give 25 cents? How do I know it was the Lord? I was dazzled at the incompetence at raising funds. So let me give you a Jewish example that I witnessed. Many years ago, I was the scholar in residence for the biggest Jewish philanthropy, the United Jewish Appeal. It was in Arizona, and the other speaker was the Israeli ambassador to the UN and myself. We were privy, or I was privy, I don't know if he went, Dennis, would you like to see how we raise funds from our biggest givers? Biggest givers were people who gave $100,000 a year, and this is like 25 years ago. So that's equivalent today to $4 million. So that's a sad comment on inflation. Anyway, would you like to come and see how we raise funds? I said I'd be very curious. This is what they did. The guy who's leading the session looks at the group. He goes, okay, Friedman, please stand up. I couldn't make this up. He goes, Jerry, we have your tax returns from last year. You had a really good year, Jerry. So now, my friends, with no, God forbid, sacrilegious intent with regard to either the Lord or the Holy Spirit, which do you think works better?
All right, things are going to be changing around here. But seriously, folks.
O'Connor, we have your,
Your giving really helps us. You'll find out after the break some of the guests that Catherine has been able to line up for the next 6 months. Some pretty amazing people that I never thought we'd even be able to bring into Westgate Chapel. And if you're able, please, we would see. You're right. You're right. I'm
right. You are able. We will embarrass you if you don't.
Just very quickly, on a serious note, Family Policy Institute of Washington has a table out in the lobby. There are 6 initiatives signed by each of them, signed by 420,000 people on parental authority issues, on taxation issues. And if you have any questions about how you can register in Olympia your support of those initiatives, which the legislators are telling us they're only going to entertain 3 of those 6, please stop at the table as you leave and during the break as you come back, and find out how you can be involved in helping us here in the state. All righty? God bless you.
See you soon.
So good to hear all of the chatter, all of the conversations happening in between. If you see somebody talking to their neighbor, can you just tap them and say, hey, Michael's on stage? Thank you. There's so many people out in the lobby, they don't know we've started yet. So one of the best tricks of being an MC to get people to come in is we gotta make a lot of noise, like something's happening. So can we do that? 1, 2, 3. Oh my goodness, I can't believe all that's happening in here. Why don't you come on back? Okay, it worked on like 3 people, but we tried. A couple of things. I know we sold out of the mezuzahs, which is an incredible sign of support, but I don't want us not having mezuzahs on a table to hold you back from buying a mezuzah to support Jews just around the world and the country of Israel. So I would just encourage you personally, whether it's Amazon or your local Bible store, like there's mezuzahs that are available for under $10 everywhere, and I think it's the least that we can do coming out of tonight as an action item. So I know I'm standing in front of about 1,000 people, so let me let you in on a little secret. We have an update to the lineup for this year. And I was telling a few people during the break, it's unbelievable that my church, Westgate Chapel, like Dennis Prager is here, let alone the rest of the people that are coming. Okay, so here's the secret. This afternoon, we received confirmation that on April 14th, we will have former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for Apologia. You guys probably already saw that on March 24th, Seth Dillon, who's one of my favorite dudes of the Babylon Bee, is coming for Apologia. That should be really cool. Then in June, we'll have Eric Metaxas back. In September, we'll have Pete Hegseth. And then in November, aptly timed, we will have Kayleigh McEnany back to help us process what has transpired with what's going on in the November elections. So again, this is just a program that you're not gonna want to miss. Let's see. Oh, can you put up the mailing slide? Since there are about 25-30% of the people that this is your first time, how do you know the exact date and time those speakers are coming that I just announced? You can either take a picture of the QR code or you can go to apologiaforum.com and sign up for the mailing list. We won't email you anything other than information about Apologia, whether it's new speakers or updated times. For instance, tonight's program starts at 7. It normally starts at 6, but we have to accommodate people's travel schedules. So with that, just make sure you're signed up for that mailing list so that you're aware of all of the changes. Lastly, can we put up the giving slide? I am not a pastor here on staff, so I don't feel any bit of guilt talking about supporting this program. I would ask you, as a guy that hopefully you like and love, of course you do, I would ask you, how much would you pay for a ticket to tonight's performance or conversation? This is easily, I recognize everybody makes a different amount of money. I would easily pay $20. Like, that is so reasonable for me to ask of you each to pay $20 or $10 or $5. Okay, maybe I'm becoming like a pastor. Let's make a declarative financial support to, I think you're here because you like this program. This is a non-budgeted program for Westgate Chapel. This was created from Pastor Alec and the pastors on staff purely out of wanting to serve the need of the body locally here in the Northwest. And honestly, it's your financial support that keeps this thing going. So whether you go to westgatechapel.com, we have these little black boxes outside of each of these doors. You can just drop cash in there if you want. They're secured. Or lastly, you can scan that QR code and give to Apologia Forum. So it feels good not to feel any guilt about that because I'm really proud of what this program is and what it represents. So with that, we're gonna roll one more really quick clip of the speakers that are coming up over the next 3 or 4 months, and then we're gonna invite Dennis and Pastor Alec back. Roll the tape.
But it's how they control speech and thought. If your worldview is incoherent and impossible to defend rationally,
yes,
then you have to insulate it from criticism. And what's the most effective kind of criticism there is? I think it's mockery, which exposes foolishness for what it is. So it makes perfect sense to me. I was mistaken about this. It's something I admit I was wrong about, is when early on when we first started getting fact-checked and we first started having these issues with censorship with the Babylon Bee, it was my belief that these were humorless scolds who just didn't think our jokes were funny, and they thought they were offensive and they were being hypersensitive, and that's not the case.
No, it's not. You're going through the stages of realization.
The stages of realization. I eventually learned and came to realize that it's not humor. Humor's a vehicle for truth delivery. They don't like the fact that the narrative is being challenged in a way that's effective, and so they have to shut you up. You know, the hypersensitive, the people getting up in comedians' faces or charging the stage to slap them in the face when they make a joke they don't like. Don't bring your speaker to our campus because we need a safe space here and this will offend people. It's all fake outrage because they've learned that fake outrage can be used as a tool to bludgeon you into silence and submission.
But that's exactly right.
Here with analysis, Fox News contributor, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. You know, Mr. Secretary, I look at the world situation, I don't care if it's Europe, Ukraine, Russia. I look at this new axis of evil, China, Russia, Iran, as probably the biggest threat since the Cold War, and I think they're more emboldened than ever just based on their actions? What do you see?
I think your analysis is exactly right. What we saw happen on October 7th, what we saw happen in Afghanistan where 13 Americans killed, the Chinese spy balloon, these things are all connected by dictators, authoritarian regimes that do not fear the United States of America, that President Biden has allowed such an accelerated rate of decay of our deterrence that we had built up in the 4 years that President Trump and I were serving has really done the American people a disservice, and it is dangerous. It's dangerous not only for the Israelis, for folks in the Middle East, but it's dangerous for folks here in the United States of America as well. A wide open southern border and a North Korean leader, a Chinese leader, a Russian leader who don't think that the United States will stand up and defend its most sacred values is a place that is a very dangerous country here at home as well.
The book we're talking about today, Letter to the American Church, I wrote a sequel to it, which will come out in April, where I talk about how we are in what I perceive as the third existential crisis of our nation's history. The first was the revolution. The second was the Civil War. We are now in a third existential crisis where there are globalist forces dedicated to undermining American sovereignty, that are at war with American values. I mean, we forget what an outlier we are in history, and that our love of genuine liberty, of freedom of speech, of really religious liberty, of allowing churches and synagogues to flourish and to be a part of what makes us free and what makes us a thriving culture. There are forces dedicatedly at war with that within our nation and from without.
All right, let's dig into your questions. Can you welcome back Dennis Prager and Pastor Alec Rollins?
Well, you wrote a bunch of great questions, so I'll start at the top. Dennis, our public schools are not teaching kids critical thinking. Instead, they're telling them what to think and how to act in order to be, quote, a good person. As a society, what do we need to do to deprogram young people coming out of our educational system?
I have a lot of answers to that, and but I'll be brief. One is, my favorite answer is homeschooling. I think that American educators are hopeless, and at whatever you could do to fix your local school, and private and public are equally awful. Obviously, there are exceptions, but if you can't generalize, that means you don't see patterns, and then you don't understand life. Generally speaking, educators have given education a bad name. This is very sad. In Jewish life, you're taught that teachers are on the same level as your parents. That's how venerated they are. When my teacher came into my room at yeshiva, we stood up. When the principal came in, we stood up. American kids until 1962, in what I consider to be the worst decision, even including Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was an awful decision in every way, not just morally, even legally, but really the one that ended America as we know it was 1962, the decision against school prayer. And there was a prayer, may God bless our parents, our teachers, and as I've said 1,000 times, American students went from blessing their teachers to cursing their teachers within one generation. The horrible, horrible decision about that. So I have venerated teachers. That's part of my tradition, but no longer. Most teachers are awful, really awful. It's not that they're poor teachers. They teach poor things. So the only answer is to get your kids out of those schools.
Yes. Yes.
I would say to grandparents here who have some savings, I don't even mean a millionaire, just some savings, that you say to your children who have children, that is your grandchildren, listen, I would love you to try to homeschool your kids or your kid, and if it's a financial hit that stops you from doing it because one parent could not work full time, and both are now, I will give you that money to tide you over for that period of time. It's something for you, if you're a grandparent, to think about. Let me put it to you this way. I know people who have grandchildren who have become woke and who are the antithesis of everything the grandparents hoped that their child or grandchild would be. And they would be the first to say they would have taken out loans to have their kids homeschool their grandchildren. So that's my first answer, because teachers' unions care about students as much as feminist organizations care about women, as much as communist organizations cared about workers, as much as Black Lives Matter cares about blacks. None of them care about the group that they use for power. Teachers' unions don't give a damn about kids. Once you know that, you know a lot about what is going on. They ruined them with the lockdowns because they're a bunch of hypochondriacs, and we're afraid that they'll die. Not one Swedish teacher died, not one Swedish school under 16 years of age closed. I mean, the record is disgusting. So homeschooling is number one. Number two, if that's not possible, is to do what Deuteronomy says, and you will speak these things when you lie down and when you rise up and when you walk by the way. You must understand that you must teach them good values because they're learning bad values at their school and from their telephone, from their social media. I mean, they're surrounded by pathology. So you have to do that. That's why we created Prager U Kids, where a great number of kids are watching our videos, and they're wholesome. That's why the left hates them, because they hate truth, beauty, and goodness. And we hope you will use them. They're all free, so this is not an advertisement. So between your working on them and ideally taking them out of the schools, most kids do not have to go to college. One of my sons did not go to college. He is now doing a podcast, of which I am very proud. My stepson, who was here, did not go to college, to the best of my knowledge. Did you go to college? And he's terrific. My Jewish friends marveled at the fact that, this is a long time ago, I said to my kids, I don't care about your grades. I don't care what college you get into. I don't care if you go to college. I only care about your character. That was the way I raised my kids. I meant it, and that's the way every child should be raised.
In the exclusion of God from public life, can you explain why communism and socialism seem to be, by default, the systems that are instituted to fill that God void, and how they are the same side of a progressive coin?
There is no one on earth who doesn't have a religion. That person has not been yet created. So if your religion is not going to be a traditional religion, in our case, Judeo-Christian, and I mean that. In other words, any Jewish Christian expression of anyone that's Bible-based, Judaism, Catholicism, Protestantism, LDS. I know you have troubles with LDS theology. You probably have troubles with my theology. So let me tell you, this, Pastor, is important that I say. My religion, Judaism, teaches me not to judge people by their theology, but by their decency. I have brought a lot of lapsed Christians back to church. I mean, really a lot. My wife was present in the Czech Republic when I spoke to a group a few years ago. And a young man, about 27 years of age, walked over to me and said, I just want you to know, Ben Shapiro brought me to conservatism, and you brought me to God. And he's a Christian. Now he's become a Christian. And I looked at him, and I hugged him, and I said, just remember to tell everybody it was 2 Jews who did that. It's been so fascinating to me. Christians will call my show and say, you sound so happy when somebody calls up and said they've gone back to church because of you. It doesn't make sense. You believe in Judaism, but it does make sense. We believe in the same God, the same 10 Commandments, 2/3 of the same Bible. We're the only religions in the world that share a Bible. Think about that. Only Judaism and Christianity share a Bible, the Old Testament. Islam doesn't share it with either of the other religions, obviously not Hinduism or Buddhism or Zoroastrianism. This is an incredible link. It brings me massive joy when somebody says, I've gone back to church after hearing you. Of course it does. It brings me massive joy if a Jew says, I've gone back to synagogue because of you. So, this is what makes me tick in the theological realm. Back to your question, which was, tell me it again, because I diverted onto
the exclusion of God from public life.
Okay, yes. So I was saying nobody has no religion. That's correct. So if you don't have, let's say, Judaism or Christianity, and you are in the Western world, what will you have? You won't have nothing. Back again to the Chesterton quote, even though probably Chesterton may not have said it. Doesn't matter. It's attributed to him. So feminism, environmentalism, communism, socialism, environmentalism, these are all isms that have replaced Christianity and Judaism. That's what they are. These are religions to these people. They believe in it as deeply as you believe in Christ, as I believe in God and the Torah. We must understand that. They really do believe, not all of them, but a lot of them, that the world is coming to an end because of global warming. Let me tell you how bad, how sick it is. As a service, if I go to heaven, because we believe in works. So here is one of the works that will get me into heaven. I read the New York Times every day. That is an incredible achievement. And I do it for the sake of my work and my listeners and my readers and so on. So they have written about these things a lot. For example, there was an article, in the opinion pages of I guess it was a woman writing about how she has decided not to have children because of climate change. So I do something all the time. I always read comments. Comments are as instructive as articles. In the New York Times, like many places, you can only make a comment if you're a subscriber. So that's even better. What does the New York Times reader think of that column? I did an entire hour of radio just on comments, and the comments went like this. I fully identify with that article. more than anything else in my life, I have wanted to be a grandparent. But my daughter or my son, or both, daughter-in-law and son and daughter-in-law, have decided not to bring a child into this world because of climate change, and I fully support them. These are true believers, my friend. If you're willing to welcome not having a grandchild because the earth will incinerate that child one day, you really must believe it. Because this is working against your deepest yearning to have a grandchild. That's how sick that world is. As I've said for many years, I have a riddle. What do you call a religious person who says the world is coming to an end? A fanatic. What do you call a secular person who says the world is coming to an end? An environmentalist. They have made all these substitutes. Communism was a substitute. Socialism was a substitute. That's all it is. That's another example of what you were raising with me, the consequences of secularism. All these horrible isms that replace Judaism and Christianity.
Wow, thank you. Let's jump to the international and Israel scene again. Why is Israel so hated by Iran?
Because Iran is evil, and evil focuses on Jews. And if non-Jews don't know that, they're committing suicide. Because so many non-Jews, not even bad, I'm not talking about bad people, just so many non-Jews thought Hitler was the Jews' problem, so they ignored him when they could have stopped him. And then about 60 million non-Jews got killed, aside from the Holocaust. Okay, right? So the same thing with Iran. How many billions did Obama and Biden give to Iran? Because they don't recognize that when you want to annihilate Jews, you're not a nice person. That's sort of definitional to how bad you are. The raison d'etre, the reason for being of the Iranian regime is identical to that of Hitler. Hitler's greatest desire was to exterminate the Jewish people. Iran's greatest desire was to exterminate Israel and its Jews. That is the biggest yearning of both. And that's it. That's what animates them. The idea that the Jews should create something good in the middle of the Muslim world infuriates them. And it really must, because they're Shiites and the Arab world is largely Sunni. But it doesn't matter to them. They want Israel destroyed. There is no other reason. Israel doesn't disturb Iran. They have nothing. They don't board one another. Nothing. But the idea that there would be a Jewish state, the people who torture women who don't wear a head covering, this is the moral level of these despicable human beings who run the Iranian regime, and the support that Democrats have given them leads to another question that I know you have from one of those who've written in with a question, which I'll be unhappy to answer because the answer is unhappy. But that is the answer. Evil starts with Jews and never ends with Jews. Jews are the miner's canary.
Let's go to that question then that you just referenced. Why do you think a large number of Jews still vote Democrat when it's so blatantly obvious that Democrats hate Israel? Do you see any turning in them since October 7?
So I said it would be an unhappy answer. It is. So, but I think I can explain it. It won't make much sense to you because it doesn't make much sense. But I do believe this is the answer, or the biggest part of the answer. You need to understand that most Jews suffer from PTSD, and I don't use that term ever lightly. The Holocaust was a trauma for every living Jew. There's no way around that. When every man, woman, and child who was a Jew in Europe was targeted for death, and 2 out of every 3 were successfully murdered, it's a big deal. The most culturally advanced country in the world, Germany, created Auschwitz. The country of Bach, Beethoven, Schiller made Auschwitz. That's disturbing. So Jews have been traumatized, and they still believe that anything to the right is a danger of another Holocaust. It's unbelievably stupid, but yet, as I've learned, it's very hard to battle emotions. Feelings über alles for much of humanity. And that's what Jews think. Jews think that if it's on the right, if you just scratch a right-winger enough, you get to Hitler. That's what they believe. When I spoke at the University of Wyoming a few years ago, the left-wing writer there said, among the usual, transphobe, homophobe, racist, and anti-Semite. So somebody pointed out to her I was a Jew and written the most widely used introduction to Judaism in the English language, among other things. So she dropped anti-Semite in the reprint of the article. But that is what they believe. They have no problem. That's why they use the term fascist with such ease about any right-winger. There is no right-winger that the left does not call fascist. You cannot name one. We're all fascists. Whereas it's ironic, because if there's anything close to fascism, it's coming from the left in the United States. And it's so obvious. So so the Jewish left is gone. I mean, it's just like the non-Jewish left. They're largely hopeless. But most Jews are not leftists. Most Jews are liberal. Liberals vote for the left, but they don't think left. The only thing they have in common with the left is hatred of the right. And that explains what should be not explainable. So that's my sad report to you on that question.
And October 7th has not changed their
So October
perspective?
7th, many Jews say, wow, the left really is disgusting. But so what am I going to do? They don't believe the Democrats have been taken over by the left. They're still voting for John F. Kennedy. That's really what they believe. Hubert Humphrey, John F. Kennedy. I remember about, 4 elections ago, going around the country, speaking in battleground states with my colleagues from Salem Radio. So in Florida, which was then a battleground state till Saint DeSantis took over, and he is saintly. I spoke at a synagogue, and I began my talk by saying, ladies and gentlemen, I have some difficult news to share with you. FDR died. That's why I'm not popular in synagogue life, just in case you were wondering. But they're still, so this was then, and there were a fair number of older people who would have remembered FDR. And they're still voting for FDR. The baby boomers are still voting for John F. Kennedy and Hubert Humphrey and Lyndon Johnson and all the liberals. They don't know that they're voting for leftists who hate their guts, which proves what you all know. There is no link between intelligence and wisdom. None. The mailman I interviewed had more wisdom than 90% of the professors at Harvard.
Benjamin Netanyahu is deeply unpopular, rightfully or wrongfully, in Israel because of perceived intelligence failure that led to October 7 terrorist attacks. What do you think of the leadership structure in Israel?
My attitude has been all of my life, I have never said a word about Israeli leaders, not one word. My job, I have always felt as a Jew in the diaspora, is to just defend Israel, is to help Israel because people want to destroy it. If their prime minister is on the left, I am as passionately defensive of Israel as if the prime minister is on the right. It is not my business who Israelis elect. That's Israelis' business. I could be an Israeli tomorrow. If I want to go as a Jew, I could be a citizen tomorrow, and then I can speak up all I want. But as an American living 10,000 miles away from being blown up in a bus, or God forbid what happened October 7th, it's my business only to be supportive. So I have never said anything about any Israeli prime minister. Don't clap yet. It is worthy of clapping for. It's a good position, but some people's heads have to roll because of October 7th. That was an indescribable breach of incompetence on Israel's part. It is beyond belief that it could happen, that they could roll over that supposed new Maginot Line, the Bar-Lev line. It is unimaginable that it took 6 hours for Israeli army troops. I mean, Israel is so tiny, they could have been there in 45 minutes, not 6 hours. I mean, it's really, really, really bad what happened on October 7th, not just because of the evil that took place, but Israel, which is so competent normally, its incompetence. And again, truth is the number one thing people must be devoted to. That's the truth. And so somebody or somebodies must be held responsible. This is not the time to do it. It's wartime. But I do believe he has to be held responsible. And I have never said an unsupportive word about him until October 7th.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go back now to the conversation we had about secularism and the consequences of secularism. Could you talk a little bit about the loss of freedom that is associated with the espousal of secularism?
Guess what's on the Liberty Bell? Raise your hand if you know what is written on the Liberty Bell. So I see about 8 hands. Okay. It's very interesting. And I don't blame you. I didn't know it until somebody pointed it out to me. We all learn from somebody. The Liberty Bell has only 2 things inscribed on it: the name of the bell maker, the company, and 1 verse from the Bible. As it happens, from the Torah. And as it happens, from Leviticus, which shows you how immersed the founders were in Jewish scripture. Leviticus is not everybody's first book. That's what I'm up to in my 5-volume commentary on the Torah, the Rational Bible. Numbers is coming out this year, and my 5th is Leviticus. It's not easy, but I tried to make it all explainable and relevant. In any event, it's a verse from Leviticus chapter 25, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all its inhabitants. They knew their Bible so well, and they knew their Torah so well. The truest Judeo-Christians in history were the founders of the United States of America. They embodied Judeo-Christian values. The Liberty Bell is the icon of America, as is the Statue of Liberty. The French gave it to us. They didn't give it to themselves. This has been the freest country in the world until the left ruined it. It is no longer the freest country in the world. It is painful beyond words for me to say this to you. But there is no example in history since Vladimir Lenin, since the French Revolution, if you will, of the left gaining power and allowing freedom. Leftism is opposed to freedom, and the biggest freedom they're opposed to is freedom of speech. Because the moment people hear another view, the left is dead. That is why they want Prager shut down. That is why they don't want conservative speakers on campuses. They are afraid of us, rightly so. Because in 90 minutes, Heather McDonald, or Jordan Peterson, or Charlie Kirk, or Dennis Prager, or Ben Shapiro, or Dave Rubin, or Douglas Murray. I mean, the list is gigantic of wonderful conservative speakers. In 90 minutes, we can undo their 4 years of lies. And they know it. We don't fear 90 minutes of leftism. So this is where we're at, and we need, obviously, to get the word out. Again, since I diverted, what was the question?
Just about the loss of freedom.
Oh, the loss of freedom. Freedom is not a left-wing value. Truth is not a left-wing value, and freedom is not a left-wing value. I got a question. I do a weekly fireside chat. I've done 330 or so of them. Thank you. There's a minimal applause, but nevertheless, I'm grateful. Anyway, for PragerU, I do a weekly fireside chat. And I get questions from young people all over the world. And some young person, I don't remember where, said, how do we possibly know who's telling the truth? It's a very good question. How do you know? And I think best under pressure. If there's no pressure on me, I'm really incompetent. If I don't have a deadline to write, I will write nothing. If I'm not pressured to speak, I won't speak. That's how I work. And under pressure, I had to come up with an answer, and it was a good one. I said, I'll tell you how you know who's telling the truth. The one who is lying wants to suppress dissent. That's the guideline. We don't suppress dissent. Conservatives don't give a damn if liberals or leftists speak. Go right ahead, speak all you want. Just let us speak. But they don't, and they never did. There is no example in modern history from Lenin on, Vladimir Lenin, not John. From Vladimir Lenin on, there is not one example of any institution run by the left that has allowed dissent. Not a country, not a state, not a city, not a university. Nothing. Wherever they take over, they suppress dissent. That's how you know they're lying.
Our time is almost gone, and I knew this would happen, but the death of objective morality goes along with the freedom to speak the truth. But
objective anything is gone. Male and female are not objective truths. I studied Russian in order to read Pravda. Pravda was the Soviet communist newspaper. I didn't study Russian in order to be able to converse in it. So I can say the Soviet government condemns the Israeli aggressors fighting the peace-loving people of the Arab countries in perfect Russian. I would like a tuna sandwich. I don't have a clue. I have a very strange knowledge of Russian. It was just in order to read Pravda. Pravda in Russian means truth. Lenin named it truth for the same reason that Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, said, and I play this regularly on my radio show, she said, if you do not hear it from the government, it is not true. By the way, guess what she's doing now? Teaching at Harvard. Is that awesome? Is that the best? She's a perfect fit for Harvard. She's a Leninist, a liar. But she doesn't know she's lying. She doesn't, this is not an attack on her. I know it sounds like an attack on her. It's not a compliment. But that whole world believes that. If you don't hear it from the government, it is not true. That's what they believe. That's why he named Pravda, the communist paper, Pravda, truth. Truth is what we on the left, we communists in Russia, we leftists in America or New Zealand say it is. Truth is that everything else is misinformation, disinformation. That's it. If you said lockdowns were bad for kids, you were anti-science. That was misinformation. You were telling the truth. If you said that the vaccine was not good for children, you were anti-science. Truth is, you were anti-science if you said it was good for children. It has hurt much more children than COVID hurt children. That's either true, by the way. Listen, let's make this deal. If I'm wrong, I lose credibility. If they're wrong, they lose credibility. Right? One or the other. Either I'm lying or they're lying. Either the CDC and FDA and NIH are lying or I am. It's as simple as that. This is binary. They don't believe in binary, but this is binary. You've been lied to and lied to and lied to and lied to, but they tell you it's the truth, and if you do not hear it from us, it is not the truth. Just as the New Zealand Prime Minister, now teaching at Harvard, said. They don't believe in objective truth. Do you know that the Oregon Education Department, it's one state below you, one state above from me. It's between us. It's a great state, just like Washington and California. What the left has done to the West Coast is a tragedy beyond words. And the Oregon Education Department, look it up, OED, said, the idea that there is one correct answer in math is white supremacist. Folks, again, if that's not true, you should never listen to me again. And if it is true, you should never listen to them again. This is binary. It's not that they don't, it used to be they don't believe in moral truth. They don't believe in any truth. Men give birth is a lie. Men menstruate is a lie. But your medical schools are now, they no longer say, by the way, pregnant women. They say birthing person. Medical schools. They don't believe in scientific truth any longer. Truth is what they say. Just like Lenin, it's pravda. That's true. Just like Prime Minister Ardern, if you don't hear it from us, it isn't true. For 2 years, the New York Times lied every day about Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. The Columbia Journalism Review, the most prestigious journalism review in the country, to my shock and to their credit, devoted an entire issue to the lies of the media about the Trump collusion with Russia thing. That it was total lie. Columbia Journalism Review. I'm not even sure the New York Times reported on the Columbia Journalism Report. By the way, they got the Pulitzer Prize for lying. That's the same prize given to Walter Duranty in 1932, the New York Times reporter who, in the Soviet Union, who said that there was no starvation in Ukraine. 5 million Ukrainians starved to death by Stalin. Their record is despicable. Left is bad. Liberal is naive. Liberals are not bad. They're weak. And the weak allow the bad to prosper. That's the tragedy in America is not the left. The tragedy in America is the liberal. The liberal shares no values with the left except anti-right. And that is enough for them to vote for people with whom they differ on everything. Most of my relatives vote Democrat. Not one is a leftist. They think the idea that men give birth is ridiculous. They think the idea that America is a systemically racist country is ridiculous. But they'll keep voting for Democrat because they truly believe that they're for the little guy and Republicans are for the rich guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it used to be they didn't believe in moral truth. The left doesn't believe in any truth.
As we get ready to wrap up, do you see any signs of hope?
My wife knows my answer. And I'll say it anyway. Whenever I'm asked that question, I tell the following story. I used to visit Israel every year in my 20s. There was a mentor of mine, a rabbi, may he rest in peace, Pinchas Peli. I stayed at his home. We were driving around Israel one day. I remember when he told me the story, it was at a gas station. So he said, Dennis, in the early days of Israel, it was pretty much a socialist country. So in order to get a phone, you had to get it from the government. You go to the Ministry of Communication, and you put in your request for a phone. So I put in a request for a phone, and I asked the clerk, so in how long you think I'll get my phone? And the clerk said, about 6 months, sir. So I said to the clerk, sir, is there any hope that I can get it sooner? And the clerk said to me, sir, there's always hope. There's no chance. It's a very dark story. And I've been poisoned by it because every time I'm asked, is there hope? That's what I think about. Oh, there's always hope, there's no chance. That's not true. There is a chance. But unfortunately, this fantastic little story, which, by the way, he told it to me in Hebrew, but it works just perfectly in English. You don't lose anything in translation. So, yes, of course there's hope. Yes, yeah, there's hope. How many of you are here? A lot of you are here tonight. And why do they have to suppress us? Because they know there are a lot of us. See, America, tragically, is the major source of toxic ideas in the Western world today. It's painful for me to say because I love this country, but truth is truth. But, and this is a very big but, we're also the major source of antipathy to those ideas. There is no robust anti-woke in Canada. Canada is gone. Australia is gone. New Zealand is gone. UK might be gone. We have the most robust, what's the penicillin, if you will, antidote with our churches and TPUSA and Daily Wire and Prager U and talk radio. I mean, it's enormous. I mean, and I've only mentioned some of the biggest. There are so many wonderful individuals and so many wonderful organizations. So you cannot give up hope. Not only because it's injurious to the battle, but because there's no reason to give up hope. But I'm not filling you with false optimism either. We have been losing. That is true. But look at Florida. Florida was a purple state. Now people flee to Florida for freedom. Florida is like Western Europe when there was an Iron Curtain. You and I in California, you in Washington, we live behind the Iron Curtain. That's really what it is. When I went to Florida during the lockdowns in California, I remember I came back on the radio and said, do you know the last time I felt this way? When I was in my 20s, I would visit communist countries annually. So whenever I would go from north to south, Poland to Czechoslovakia to Hungary to Romania to Bulgaria. And then the next year I'd go Bulgaria back to Poland, sometimes to the Soviet Union. In the middle, I got so depressed visiting communist countries. In the middle, I would go from, let's say, Hungary into Vienna. Oh my God, freedom, freedom. And I said, that's how I felt going to Florida during COVID, living in California. At one restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, where my son lives. So I got up and I took pictures of people in the restaurant, which, who does that? So a guy looks at me, he goes, "You from California?" He got it right on the, he hit it right on the nose. I was clearly not the first one to do it. I had to bring back photographic proof. People were eating without masks, eating in restaurants. Restaurants were not closing down. So, of course, there's hope. And Florida is a perfect example. I mean, but they want to wreck the country. You have to understand that. You cannot believe in an open border and not want to wreck your country. It is not possible. It's as simple as that. That is the given. So assuming, I'm happy to stay longer, believe me. I am, by the way, just letting you know. Well, thank you, that's very sweet. I wasn't, okay. All right, you could applaud, all right, that's fine. But I don't want to leave without telling you what is most important. The most important thing is not that you think there's hope. It's not that you're optimistic. It is that you fight. That's all that matters. And another word, I've thought about this a lot. I have the nature of a fighter, so I don't take that much credit for fighting. It's built into me. But what if it's not built into you? First, you can become it. You are what you want to be. I'm a total behaviorist. You want to be courageous? Act courageous. That's it. I tell people, you want to be religious? Act religious. You want to be in love? Act lovingly. I'm 100% behaviorist. I believe that deeds shape the heart infinitely more than the heart shapes the deeds. That this is a dominant belief of my life. If you are not a fighter, you have two choices. Either determine that you will become one just by behavior, even if it's not your nature. Not everybody can do that or want to do that. But there is something you could do just as important. Help the fighters. The people in a war, the people who supply the troops are as important as the troops. No supplies, no war. So therefore, you must, if you're not going to be a fighter, and you may not be cut out to be, help the fighters. This church is a fighter. Help this church, okay? It's as simple as that. This is one example. Okay? And if the pastor reports to me that this didn't work, I'm bringing out your tax returns the next time I come.
Dennis, it has been an incredible honor to have you with us tonight. Thank you for your investment in us. Thank you for sharing all that you have. And we pray God's protection around you and your family. We pray that your voice will have even greater platform around the nation, because you are one of those bright spots that keep the rest of us fighting and staying in the battle. So thank you for being here today.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you.